The member for Menzies has the call.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. I refer the Prime Minister to this power bill from Gary Gibson, who runs the Beaumont Hotel in Doncaster in my electorate. This bill clearly shows that the carbon tax has directly increased their off-peak electricity charges by over 55%, and they'll be paying almost $10,000 a year more. Isn't it true, Prime Minister, that while Beaumont can't pass on their higher costs without losing customers, the government can simply pass the cost of its $120 billion of unfunded promises onto the taxpayers?
The Prime Minister has the call.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. And to the member for Menzies. The member for Menzies raises with me the circumstances of a hotel. The opposition has raised the circumstances of hotels and carbon pricing in this parliament before. They raised the Belair Hotel. And at the time, they completely misrepresented the position, because when you looked at the bill of the Belair Hotel, the carbon adjustment was less than 10% of the overall electricity bill, and not the increase of 45% falsely claimed by the member for Boothby. And so the member for Menzies is continuing this negative fear campaign.
Her seat. The member for Boothby on a point of order.
It's important for ministers to tell the truth. In my question that the Prime Minister is referring to, I referred to a 45% increase in the off-peak power rate, and that is it.
The member for Boothby. Order. The Prime Minister will resume her seat. The Prime Minister has the call.
I thank the Deputy Speaker and I thank the member for Boothby for precisely proving my point. So when you looked at the bill of the Belair Hotel, what you saw was a carbon tax change of less than 10%. That is what you saw on that bill. What you saw on that bill was inaction. What we said would always result from carbon pricing, that is that people would see electricity price increases of up to 10%, exactly what was always said by the government. And because of that, we have provided the household assistance that the minister has just gone through, pension increases, family payment increases. We have made sure that people have got tax cuts. All of these things jeopardised by the fact that the opposition now has to make $70 billion worth of cuts because of the reckless approach they have taken to
Prime Minister will return to the question
to making promises. I am sure the member for Menzies is engaged in exactly the same trick and manoeuvre as the member for Boothby. That is, on proper examination, when the hotel's bills are looked at, the claims being made by the member for Menzies will not be found to be true. It also, Deputy Speaker, continues to amaze me that Liberal members who are here are now interjecting and carrying on didn't say one critical word when the Liberal government of Western Australia was responsible for electricity price hikes of more than 60%, when the Liberal government in New South Wales is there gouging dividends out of power companies and passing that extra cost through to consumers and small businesses. Not one word of criticism of 50, 60, 70% price rises.
The Prime Minister will resume her seat. The Manager of Opposition Business on a point of order.
Deputy Speaker, under the standing orders, apart from slandering members of the public who are simply having their issues raised, she is now not even attempting to answer the question she was asked. She's talking about other issues altogether, and you should bring her back to the question.
The Prime Minister has the call. The Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Prime Minister has the call.
Thank you very much. And the fact the Manager of Opposition Business would say that by way of interjection just proves how out of touch the opposition is. He thinks a 50, 60, 70% increase for an Australian family or a small business doesn't matter. Well, Australian families and small businesses think that they matter. They might be running a protection racket for their Liberal mates in the states when these increases come through, but we are working on these electricity.
The Prime Minister will resume her seat. Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Deputy Speaker, after insulting people who want their issues raised here, the Prime Minister has insulted the coalition, and I asked her to withdraw that.
I think you will find that Rep's practice is quite clear about groups being misrepresented. The member for Menzies, the minister, the member for Menzies is seeking to table a document.
Deputy Speaker, my constituent would like this document tabled. Therefore, I ask leave for that to occur.
The member for Menzies will resume his seat. Leader of the House is leave granted. The member for Menzies will resume his seat. The Leader of the House has the call and will be heard in silence.
Yes, given the success of the last time that the member for Boothby passed tabled a document,
Order.
I will allow that to be tabled. And what's more, Deputy Speaker, whilst I'm here, I'll table from the telegraph.com.au carbon tax not to blame for power price hikes. And I also table, consistent with the precedent asked for by the member for North Sydney, another photo of the member for North Sydney, so he can look at that as well.
The Leader of the House will resume his seat. The member for McKellar on a point of order.
Point of order, Madam Deputy Speaker. In the practice,
order! The member for McKellar has the right to be heard in silence, as anyone else in this place. The member for Indi is not assisting her colleague. The member for McKellar.
Madam Deputy Speaker, in the practice you have power to rule out of order behaviour which is aimed at disrupting the orderliness of the Parliament. The behaviour of the Leader of Government Business is continuing to do it with tabling of matter which is not relevant, plus using hold-up props, which is not within the standing orders either. And I ask you to ask him to simply desist.
Will resume her seat. The issue of the tabling of documents was dealt with by a statement from the Speaker the other day, and on the point, if I did as the member for McKellar required, I think she'd find a very empty chamber. The member for Corangamite has the call.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. My question is to the Assistant Treasurer and the Minister assisting for deregulation. What is the government doing to manage the budget in a responsible way under difficult global economic circumstances? Why is it important to properly cost and account for policies? Is the minister aware of other approaches to managing the budget, and what would be the impact of that other approach?
The member for Fadden will leave the chamber under 94A. The Assistant Treasurer has the call.
I thank the member for Corangamite for his question. And the member knows that when the biggest global economic downturn since the Great Depression struck, this Labor government was ready to step in and to stimulate the economy and to support the jobs of hundreds of thousands of Australians. That was a choice that we made because, as a Labor government, we believed it was important that we took that action to support jobs and to keep the doors of Australian businesses open. But of course, our government, like governments all around the world, have been hit with downgrades to our revenue. But notwithstanding this, we are returning the budget to surplus, and we're doing that by making responsible savings. But those opposite, they're still struggling to make their numbers add up. Now, the Australian people will remember that at the last election, they took some costings to the election that were later exposed by the Treasury to have had an $11 billion black hole in them. So dodgy were these costings that the Institute of Chartered Accountants had to reprimand and fine the accountants that were involved in this so-called audit. Now we know that they have a $70 billion black hole, and we know that because the member for North Sydney, he's confirmed it twice now on breakfast television. Yesterday he confirmed it once again when he said, well, I said at the time whatever the cost would be, 50, 60, 70, well, that's $70 billion. And then, further questioned, he went on to say, we will find the savings, and wait for it, he says, and we have found the savings. Well, I'll believe that when I see it. I don't believe he's been able to fill his $70 billion black hole, but I do believe he's got a secret plan. I do believe he's got a secret plan. If you go to the member for North Sydney's office, in his top drawer he's got this folder, and on the top of the folder it says Secret, Commission of Audit Recommendations. There it is, all ready to go. He just won't tell anyone about it till after the election. Now, the member for North Sydney, he should be honest with the Australian people, and he should tell them that he has a plan to rip away services such as education and health in the same way as his state Liberal Premier mates have been doing. He should be honest with the Australian people. He should go to his top drawer. He should take out that folder that has his policies. He should reveal it to the Australian people.